Hey everybody, it's Aunt Bibi. Today is Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. I'm booannhammer. So today I would like to talk once again about Daniel Dumbrill. That's Daniel on the left on the screen. So Daniel Dumbrill is fairly well known among people who follow China, events having to do with China. And he suddenly burst upon the scene of social media late last year, October and November, and he was providing a lot of really good information about what he still calls the Hong Kong protests. He doesn't even call them the riots. I call them the CIA, MI6, NGO terrorism. It's unconventional warfare. He distracts from that, but that's his mission. Anyway, I quickly picked up on the fact there was a lot of cross promotion between him and other figures that are affiliated with the Grayzone, and the the founder, the head of the Grayzone outlet, is Max Blumenthal there on the right. So Max is a pretty big figure in supposedly alternative media, but he's very much connected to mainstream media, and he and his wife or beard, Anya Parampil, they both appear on Fox News, mainstream media. And Max he used to write for Salon and for Huffington Post, so fairly mainstream outlets he's connected. He's connected to the DC elite. Yes, indeed. So Daniel, uh, when I called out Daniel on Twitter and said, "Oh, I see what's going on here. You're connected to Max Blumenthal's network and all those figures," he mocked me and he said, "Oh, I'm going to mute you now. You're ridiculous." Or I don't know. He just mocked me, but it actually blocked me. And he refuses to unblock me, even though I'm connected to people who follow him and that he likes. And he says, no, he won't unblock me because he knows I'm on him. Anyway, I used to play a game in my videos called Who Did It Better or Who Does It Better. So I'm going to play one with Max, having to do with Max. So Max always looks uncomfortable in his skin when I watch him. And he looks dead inside. And it's because he's a fraud. And he knows it. And he knows that there are people out there, have picked up on this fact that he's a fraud. But if you know about his background. So who did it better? Who does it better? Max Blumenthal here. And I have another image of Max. Here he is. It looks particularly dead. This is 2 years ago. And his skin tone is very dead. So who did it better? Max Blumenthal or Edgar the Bug from Men in Black? This is Edgar the Bug. So if you're not familiar, Edgar is actually a bug, an alien from outer space, the bug. And he's wearing the skin of a dead man. So whenever I see Max Blumenthal, I think of Edgar the Bug. Edgar the Bug. So who did it better, Max Blumenthal or Edgar the Bug? Anyway, Max Blumenthal. There's a lot I could tell you about Max Blumenthal. I wasn't really familiar with him until a few years ago. But he's got quite a past, and he's connected to the DC elite. And the best source, I guess, of information about Max comes from Scott Creighton's blog and videos that he's done about Max. And he's got some older articles that he's written. He wrote about Max and his background, and I will give you links to these. So Max actually supported regime change in Libya and in Syria. And he was also in Egypt too when Mohammed Morsi was going to be overthrown. So his father is Sidney Blumenthal. And Sidney Blumenthal is closely connected to the Clintons. And So Sidney Blumenthal, I believe, he worked in the Clinton administration, and also he's very closely connected to Hillary Clinton and worked with her when she was Secretary of State, and they helped So Max was doing a lot of writing, and he was writing, and Hillary loved his writing. And there's email where she praises his writing. And he wrote a piece to help cover up the Benghazi attack, that scandal. So Max and his father helped Hillary Clinton destroy Libya, and there are now open air slave markets in Libya. So it's kind of weird. Max is all about Black Lives Matter. Yeah, he cares so much about Black lives that he helped destroy Libya and create slavery in Libya. Anyway, so and then in Syria, he supported regime change in Syria, and then he suddenly flipped in, I guess, 2016, and then suddenly opposed it. So he's like a state department. I call him a State Department disinformation asset. So disinformation, I've explained this before. Disinformation, you'll get truth mixed with propaganda or lies, and you might get a lot of truth, and then they sneak in some propaganda. But it's like a journey. Like they give you truth, they give you truth, give you truth, and then they come back around to the official narrative. And that's what Max Blumenthal and Daniel Dumbrill both do. So Daniel Dumbrill was suspiciously getting a lot of really good information about what was going on in Hong Kong. So everybody started following him October and November. He had a tiny channel. It was smaller than mine. Now his channel has almost 90,000 subscribers. Not normal at all. So that only happens if someone in social media is being aggressively promoted, especially on YouTube. That's not normal to go from, less than 1,000. Maybe he had maybe 600 or 700, fewer than my channel at the time. And now he's got almost 80,000. That's not normal at all. At all. And I have done a couple of videos where I talk about how he suspiciously came on the scene, and he smears China. Like he's supposedly pro-China, but he will smear China. And I'm convinced that his mission is to kind of make China more business friendly so that they can eventually chip away at China's system and neoliberalize it. And China was in danger of being neoliberalized back in the 1980s. And the Tiananmen Square protests, that was a color revolution, just like in Hong Kong. There were a lot of problems that were created to whip up the discontent, and that was from the Communist Party figure Zhao Ziyang, and Deng Xiaoping had opened up China to markets, and so unfortunately he put Zhao Ziyang in charge of implementing these market reforms, and basically they were getting a taste of neoliberalism, and it was causing a lot of problems. But the organized color revolution was going to make things worse. They really wanted to neoliberalize. And Zhao Ziyang had a close advisor who was actually the head in China of a neoliberal think tank. And it got funding from Soros. So anyway, that's the mission of Max Blumenthal's Grayzone outlet and Daniel Dumbrill, is to chip away at countries and build a following, get people to think, oh, everything we're telling you is the truth. We're alternative media, and we'll give you the truth. No. And Daniel Dumbrill is just I call him a brew pub dick, because he really is. He runs a brew pub, but that's kind of a sideline. And his videos are monetized. Like he's taking CIA, Google money, CIA, Google, YouTube money. So he has no integrity. It's all about the money, all about business. And he thinks he's being censored. I think there are these YouTubers who think, oh, I'm being censored because my channel is or my videos are demonetized. And, but I think he's got a background in currency trading. I think digital currency trading. So he's all about the business. So Max Blumenthal, Max Blumenthal is so connected to the DC elite. I have found a link And I found it from this. So there's a Max Blumenthal parody account, and I follow it. It's very funny, and I have interacted with it. But its take is that Max is a Russian agent. Now I don't agree. Max is not a Russian agent. He's a State Department disinformation asset. Yeah. Um, so he's connected. He's got big money backers, and money is never a problem with the gray zone. That's that's a giveaway. Max and his beard, his wife, Anya Parampil, they appear on Fox News, and Max, he used to write for like Huffington Post and Salon. So he's connected to mainstream media. He's not really alternative media. So anyway, there was this post on the parody account, and it was about, oh, I'll take a little moment here. So this is in reference to Dan Cohen. So the thing that I picked up about Daniel Dumbrill, I could tell that his handler, I guess, from Grayzone, mentor handler, is Dan Cohen, who is Max Blumenthal's buddy. And this is, so I'm gonna play another who did it better or who does it better. So here's Dan Cohen in another. Oh yeah, so this is a few months ago. So this was no surprise to me that Dan Cohen suddenly showed up on Daniel Dumbrill's channel, and Daniel had mocked me when I said, "Okay, I know what's going on here. You're connected to the Grayzone gang." So this is Dan Cohen. So who did it better? Who does it better? Dan Cohen or a blobfish? Who does it better? Dan Cohen or blobfish? So I'll show you Dan again here. That's Dan Cohen, and that's the blobfish. So who did it better? Who does it better? Anyway, going back to Max Blumenthal. So all of these guys, Max and Dan Cohen and Anya Parampil, Ben Norton, Rania Khalek, and there are others. Riot Weed is another one. Ajit Singh. Anyway, so this was Max's parody account. So it says Dan Cohen trashing Clintonistas in the streets, sucking up to Clintonistas in the suites. And it says here, this is a tweet from Dan Cohen, October of last year. And he says, ultimately, Clinton and her DNC sidekicks prefer Trump over Tulsi Gabbard or Bernie Sanders because they represent a threat to the interests of the billionaire overlord class. The mask continues to come off. So he's being very critical of Clinton and her circle. But look at this. Same month last year. So this is a picture from a book party for Max's father, Sidney Blumenthal. And there's Dan Cohen and Anya Parampil at the book party. So that's Anya. Anya is Max's wife. I call her his beard because I'm not sure if it's a real marriage or not, because I think he's a womanizer. I think he likes to hook up with whoever he can. Yeah. And so there's actually a link here with many, many more photos. So this is from Washingtonian Magazine, I believe, or Washington Life. Washington Life, I guess it is. So this is Sidney Blumenthal's All the Powers of Earth book party. And these are the pictures. So I'll click on a few of these. So that's Max Blumenthal's father. And that's Max Blumenthal's mother, Jackie. So that's Sidney Blumenthal and Jackie or Jacqueline. And there are other pictures here. So here's Dan Cohen again. There's Dan Cohen. So that's Daniel Dumbrill's handler, I guess. There's Anya once again. Here's Sidney Blumenthal with Susan Blumenthal. I think that might be Sidney's sister. They look a bit alike. I saw another picture of them. I think this is it. Yeah. So there's Sidney Blumenthal and Susan Blumenthal. So that might be his sister, I think. And this is actually Paul. This is Max Blumenthal's brother. So Sidney Blumenthal has two sons. And yeah, this is just last year. Very much connected. And there's the man himself. There's Max Blumenthal. Yeah, the book party. So this is a these are limousine liberals. This is a party of limousine liberals, the DC elite. And there's Max Blumenthal, just a guy. Just a guy. Yeah. Um lots of pictures. Is that Max again? Yeah, there's Max again. There's Max. That's Max. Yeah, just hobnobbing with regular folk. Regular folk. Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's Dan Cohen. Yes, it's very nice. I'll give you the link to all these things. Very interesting pictures there. Very funny parody account. Anyway, um, so going back to so this video where Daniel Dumbrill is interviewing Max is very interesting. So they don't actually. Daniel does mention Sidney Blumenthal and that Sidney is Max's father, but they don't really get into that. It's just kind of touched upon, leaves you guessing. Then, um, so Max, he's been bragging lately about how Donald Trump retweeted him, and I pointed out people were gonna they were making a big deal about that Donald Trump had retweeted Max. And I pointed out, well, Donald Trump would not have retweeted Max Blumenthal if he were just a regular guy, ordinary guy, just a guy, alternative media guy. No. Donald Trump retweeted Max Blumenthal, and Max Blumenthal is criticizing John Bolton, who's just put out a book that's very critical of Donald Trump. So Donald Trump would not have retweeted Max Blumenthal if he were a nobody. So clearly, Donald Trump was very comfortable with retweeting someone such as Max Blumenthal, who has mainstream media connections. And Max Blumenthal thought he was very clever and changed the name of his account to things like defund the police, which is a neoliberal agenda. Privatize the police, you undermine the police, defund the police, cut budgets, the policing becomes worse. So this whole Black Lives Matter agenda is about defunding the police and destabilizing the U.S. He also retweeted Free Julian Assange, I think. So Julian Assange is a disinformation regime change asset himself. Yeah. So Matt, in this long video, hour and a half, so I listened very carefully. So it's very subtle. You have to listen very carefully. So they give you a lot of truth. And Daniel, he just gets so excited when he has Dan Cohen or Max Blumenthal. He never has women on. And he's just all about the dudes. He always does videos with other guys. And it's like he has a heart on when something like Dan Cohen and Max Blumenthal come on. And that's because those are his guys. Those are his guys. And Max, he's like a drama queen too. So he was complaining in this video that his critics are like contract killers and mercenaries, like pretty, just exaggerating. And he talks about when he got arrested recently, and he says he lives in the poorest part of DC, the Fourth Ward. I looked up the Fourth Ward. That's like in the northwest, very affluent area. I don't know what he's talking about. He's just lying. He's connected. He's got money. Never any money problems. Goes to these cocktail parties and travels in elite circles. He claims he's been blacklisted. And how can he be, if he's blacklisted, how come he appears on Fox News and Anya appears on Fox News? He claims the FBI is going to arrest the Grayzone assets, that they're persecuted like Julian Assange, the Assange reference. So he doesn't really mention, who he really is. He never talks about this. He's dead inside. He's a fraud. Um, so in this video, amazingly enough, Daniel Dumbrill says nothing when Max Blumenthal sneaks in disinformation. And Daniel sneaks in disinformation too. So they talk about 9/11, and Daniel talks about some epiphany moment of his where he saw a debate between Ron Paul, Libertarian Ron Paul, and Rudy Giuliani about 9/11, and how Ron Paul said, oh, 9/11 was revenge for, it was the consequence of U.S. foreign policy. Well, that's the blowback. And Max Blumenthal is known as blowback Blumenthal because he he doesn't tell you the truth about the attacks of 9/11 were a false flag attack, an inside job to start this war of terror, what I call war of terror, Operation Gladio B. And so they're both distracting from the truth. And it covers up the Project for the New American Century and the U.S. and Israel's involvement in the 9/11 attacks. They were false flag attacks blamed on Muslims, and it was to demonize Islam, and it was all part of Operation Gladio B, which also is to radicalize Muslims, including Uyghurs in China, and to destabilize China. That was part of it. So they distract from that. Another thing, amazingly, Max, he talks about the Uyghurs. So Max talks about the Uyghurs, and he says he's not disputing that they experience massive repression and massive surveillance in China. He just disputes the numbers that are quoted about being in concentration camps or being in camps. And I couldn't believe that. So, and Daniel says nothing. So he's pushing the official narrative that there's Uyghurs that are experiencing massive repression and massive surveillance. And he doesn't talk about the radicalization of the Uyghurs by the West, US and Israel and others, to destabilize China. He doesn't distracts from that. And Daniel doesn't correct him or anything. Another thing I could not believe that he says, okay, he talks about the US and its global um, um, war crimes, I guess, war crimes, regime change operations around the world. And then at the end, he says, but Russia and China commit human rights abuses in smaller neighboring countries along their frontiers. And I'm going, what the heck? So he's pushing this human rights abuses thing. He accuses Russia and China of committing human rights abuses in neighboring countries. Sneaks that in. He's a real snake in the grass. So people think he's all progressive, but he's fake left. He and Daniel push identity politics big time. So Daniel will talk about racism in Hong Kong and the prejudice against the bigotry towards people in Hong Kong, mainland Chinese from the mainland who speak Mandarin, or even from Taiwan that come to Hong Kong and speak Mandarin. But he talks about racism in Hong Kong. He distracts from the destabilization campaign that the U.S., the West, is orchestrating in Hong Kong. And Max does the same thing. So he's big on Black Lives Matter, but he doesn't talk about systemic. They distract from systemic things, systemic problems, issues. Just amazing. I mean, you have to listen really carefully because most people, they're not, and they sneak in official propaganda. And Daniel, yeah, he pushes identity politics so much. And there was some idiot viewer or fan of his said, criticized me and said I was I keep getting accused of being racist about Daniel. And it's not about race. He's very corrupt. He's pushing disinformation. And one of them said, "Oh, but Daniel, the video about how he was shaming Chinese for, supposedly being racist towards Africans, and he distracted with the real issues of that controversy." And this person said, "But Daniel is Afro-Canadian. See, he's from Canada. He's not of African descent. His mother was South Asian from the former colony in South America, British Guyana. So in British Guyana, there were people of Africa. There was a community. He talks about the racism between the communities that was orchestrated. So there are people of African descent and there are people of South Asian descent. So his mother was of South Asian descent. I think his middle name is even Ahmed or Abdul. I can't remember anyway. So his father is British. He was born in the UK. So he's biracial. And so it's just, people are really stupid about race. So they think anybody with dark skin, oh, it's got to be African or something, African descent. No, he's not Afro-Canadian. He's South Asian. And I'm not being racist. I'm criticizing what he's saying and his arrogance. I'm not criticizing him for his race. I'm not being racist. Just, his following, they're just not, I don't know, they're not thinking. There actually are people who follow China, and they're fed up with people like Daniel Dumbrill. And, he's connected. This is not real. He was being fed information about Hong Kong, and I spotted it. And then he mocked me. Anyway, so Max, Max he really is a drama queen. He's connected to the elite in DC. And he talks about when he was arrested and, he was called armed and dangerous. I don't believe that. And he thinks he's living in a poor community in Washington, D.C. Well, D.C. is mostly gentrified. There might be still some pockets of where poor neighborhoods, but he definitely does not live in a poor neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Yeah, if he's traveling in these circles, no, Max Blumenthal is not just the guy. He's not just the guy. So this is an amazing video. You should watch the video, and you got to listen really carefully to what he's saying. It's just, I can't believe the disinformation that these guys sneak in. And Max, he does things like he demonizes Turkey. Yeah, he just, it's like a shell game or something. He's just constantly, he's distracting from the US's involvement in certain things, or then it's like a tag team between the US and Israel. So he distracts from Israel's role, he distracts from the US's role, or he doesn't connect the dots, and he'll talk about South America as though they're different things, totally different stories going on. Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Bolivia. They don't connect the dots. They don't tell you the whole truth. That's what these disinformation assets do. So anyway, I could go on and on about these guys, and I will talk more about them. But Max Blumenthal, he's connected. And none of these guys have any money problems. In alternative media, if you see figures that are not struggling financially and they're doing just fine, that's a problem. So he traveled. Both these guys can travel, and never any money problems. Connected, all about business, and it's all about subtly undermining countries like China, chipping away at them. Anyway, I guess that's it for now. I could go on and on, but anyway, thanks for your patience, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.